I'm out here for a full A/B test of the La Sportiva Prodigio Pro versus the Salomon S-Lab Genesis. So I just ran that first section there. I went back and forth a couple times. I was pretty surprised by how similar these two shoes feel. Both feel really dialed into my foot. I think these are the two most secure fitting shoes probably in terms of mountain, ultra running, shorter distances as well, of course. You got matrix upper here, power wire upper here. The La Sportiva does feel a little more spacious in the toe box. I've got a 10.5 here, a 9.5 here. I wouldn't go any lower in the La Sportiva. This one, it feels great right now, but I did take these out for a good bulk of a pretty rugged 100-miler over the summer. And with foot swelling, I got pretty jammed up in my toes. I did a number on my feet over the summer wearing these shoes at Palisades 100-miler. So I could possibly go 10 in these, but I would not go any lower than 10.5 in these. So looking at the forefoot, there's definitely a little more space here, a little bit more volume here. That may be just the volume of my foot itself. I don't feel any loss of security, that's for sure. I could certainly tighten this up a little bit, which I don't like to do. It feels fine just now. The matrix upper, more or less any matrix upper, really wraps the foot well, doesn't bunch. It articulates when your foot moves, as you could probably see there. Matrix uppers are really great. This also really great, just a little bit more volume. I don't know if you could see in that last stop, something that I do feel on the run, a little bit more ground platform with the La Sportiva here. Especially at the forefoot. I haven't measured the Salomon, but just by feel and by looks, I feel like I have a wider base on the ground with the Prodigio Pro. Also with the Genesis being a little bit narrower platform, I feel a little bit more nimble in that one. I was hopping over some streams, kind of trying to pinpoint some rocks to land on and hop from here to there. And I felt very nimble in the Genesis. It's also closer to the ground, 30-22, so 22 mil under the forefoot. The La Sportiva's 34-28. So there's some more underfoot there. Difference in the midsole too. The La Sportiva has that TPU. So in terms of agility, 4 mil difference, extra underfoot, plus the TPU. It's a little bouncier. The Genesis is a straight EVA olefin. It's not firm, but not as bouncy as the TPU core of the Prodigio Pro. It makes sense that I feel slight edge in agility to the Genesis, S-Lab Genesis. It's probably gonna be a little muddy past this point, so I'm gonna turn around here. Got about 2.5 miles. I think I forgot to start my watch for one second. It's gonna be about a 5-mile round trip from here. I'll head back and then I'll actually switch shoes so I can even out my mileage or whatever, see if there's any wonky differences between my right and left feet. So I have been going uphill so far. It's all downhill the rest of the way. So I'll get a better feel for the stability on the way down. I think it really depends how you look at it. Like I said, the S-Lab Genesis feels more agile, more precise, but you have a wider platform with the Prodigio Pro, more cushion underfoot. So if you value that preciseness, being able to place your feet wherever you want. I've seen the S-Lab Genesis run by pro runners in the Golden Trail series. So those are obviously shorter, faster, very technical scenarios. I'm not sure if the Prodigio Pro, I'm sure for a pro runner, they can handle them. But generally speaking, a little more softness with the Prodigio Pro, wider foot placements. May not be as precise with this one, but I would say the wide platform, they do feel surely more cushioned underfoot, especially under the forefoot. So for most runners, the Prodigio Pro is gonna feel more stable, more comfortable, especially when you're leaning longer distances. Of course, we're throwing out Courtney DeWalter here from the equation. I'm filming kind of in a flat area here to get a feel for the speed. The Prodigio Pro feels faster. TPU midsole feels more responsive. The ground is kind of soft now with the rain. So I think on harder terrain, it'll probably be even more apparent how beneficial that TPU core is for distance, comfort, and also just feeling a bit quicker on the run. Full AB. Let's see. Yeah, it's kind of weird going from one shoe to the other. Kind of get used to it after a while, but then now really notice the difference. A lot closer to the ground in the S-Lab Genesis here. The cushion of the Prodigio Pro is way more noticeable after just switching shoes. Okay, so back out on the trail, another 4-ish 5-mile loop. Got the Genesis on the right foot, La Sportiva on the left. It's pretty funny how that is. On the way back down to the car, they felt so similar, like if I wasn't really paying attention, it was almost indistinguishable having two different shoes on my feet. But once I switched them back there, I immediately noticed the difference. That's kind of weird. Yeah, the Genesis noticeably closer to the ground. The cushion of the Prodigio Pro, definitely noticeable. I don't think I have that much variation between my left and right foot, left and right leg. Who knows though? So I didn't detect much difference between the two outsoles on the run. It's a little slick, not too much here. I was stepping on some, oh, here we go. Okay, no problem. Didn't detect too much difference. They're both flexible underfoot. That's something I really talked about in my Zagama 2 review, now that it has the Vibram Mega Grip. And the shoe is flexible. It could contour over the rocks and terrain so much more. So you'll get better grip just from that alone, on top of the outsole rubber. So speaking of that flexibility, neither of them have a rock plate, of course. Interestingly, they both have a PU film, as they call it. A speed film, they call it La Sportiva. Flex film for the Salomon? Forgot what they call it. Neither of them is noticeable at all underfoot. So they probably deflect a little bit, just so you don't get those sharp pinpoints through to your foot. So I'm hanging left up this hill here. Bit of a grade. So the Salomon has an 8mm drop and the Prodigio 6. It's slightly noticeable, especially on the hill. Feel that little bit under the heel, but I don't know, it's not that big of a deal. The Salomon, one thing I like about it, it does have a cushy kind of heel foam area. It's really a nice crash pad on descents. I'm gonna try to mash the heels a little bit on the way back down. See how that feels. So I want to talk about this a bit as I'm going down here. thought I would compare kind of the feel of heel matching, but they're both kind of on the same level in that regard. One thing that's noticeable, again, the forefoot cushioning. If you're leaning forward, really getting into the descent, you'll notice more cushion in the Prodigio Pro. It's more forgiving. Doesn't feel any less stable on the descent. Of course, like I said, the S-Lab Genesis, it's gonna be more precise. If you're on a steep descent with a lot of technicality thrown in on top, at high speed especially, you're gonna be more precise, but less cushioned, less protected. I'm at the point again where the feel of these two shoes underfoot, oh, I got wet there. The feel of these two shoes is really starting to meld together in my brain. It's probably best not to do these A/B test runs very long, because I'm sure your brain kind of, as long as they're somewhat similar shoes, as long as they're not drastically different, but your brain kind of probably accounts for slight differences, and they kind of meld together way more than when you first put them on or you first start running in them. So one thing that has become apparent since I switched shoes is that the Prodigio Pro seems to be a bit more supportive. I've got the Genesis on my right foot now, and my right ankle has been always a little funny. I've had an Achilles issue a long time ago, and it's something that kind of pops up now and then. So at times I notice more instability in my right ankle. So I'm feeling a little bit less stability in my right ankle right now with the Salomon on there. Not bad. I mean, I've worn my first pair of these in like a 70-mile race in Austria, so nothing major, but having different shoes on both feet now, it's more noticeable. The first part of this run with the La Sportiva shoe on my right foot, but I didn't even feel that at all. So perhaps a little bit more support. I know the Salomon has those kind of things on the side for support. Well, the La Sportiva also, the sidewalls wrap a little bit more. So maybe for me, that just gives a little better support. So my right ankle here, I tend to notice when shoes are not as supportive, I kind of feel a little less support in here. It does have, the Salomon does have these kind of, I don't know, rails or whatever over here, but I just feel like I'm a little bit going in a little bit more. Something I didn't notice when I had the Prodigio Pro on my right foot. These side rails, I think I'm maybe seated a little in the shoe more, even though the Salomon has these rails. I don't know, I just feel maybe a little bit more support in these. Could be a personal thing though. So that's a wrap for my first full A/B test. The La Sportiva Prodigio Pro, Salomon S-Lab Genesis. They're both great shoes, well suited for all mountain running. The Salomon S-Lab Genesis, well proven. Courtney DeWalter, of course, Ryan Sandus, Remy Bonnet, Golden Trail series. The Prodigio Pro, I think it's gonna make its mark when it comes out this year. Having one shoe on each foot, it's really, I can't put too much between them. There's slight differences, of course. Overall, I would say the Genesis is probably more agile, as I said right from the very beginning. You get more ground feel. I would say it's a more advanced shoe, but that's not saying that the La Sportiva is not an advanced shoe. I'm just saying that in the sense that having less cushioning underfoot and more ground feel is something that probably more advanced runners can deal with. I think for the general runner out there, you want to have a little bit more cushion and more comfortable with a more cushioned shoe with nearly the same level of security and stability as the Salomon here. So I can't really find too much difference in between. Like I said, it's very slight. This is probably better technically oriented, probably leaning more towards shorter distances due to the agility factor for most runners. Like I said, elites could probably go a lot further. This shoe, I would say, leans more distance for sure. You have more cushioning. It's noticeable under the forefoot. The TPU is more energetic than the EVA here. The EVA, secure, stable, good ground feel. This has a little bit more bounce, a little bit more dynamic ride. So in runnable terrain especially, this shoe is gonna feel faster. It's gonna feel just bouncier, more energetic, more fun to run in. And it also has the mountain chops to stand up against the S-Lab Genesis. So if something slipped my mind here and I didn't cover something in comparing these two shoes, let me know down in the comments. If you found this kind of A/B test run interesting and informative, also let me know if you got ideas for other tests. I got a lot of good shoes, a lot of super shoes around, so it's kind of fun to do. So if you got any other ideas, shoot them my way. Thank you for watching.